Good evening. This is the Historic Preservation Commission for Monday, April 11th, 2022, and we are back in person. We are going to do a roll call.
Chair Haley.
Here.
Commissioner Berg. Here. Commissioner Dunlap.
Here.
And Commissioner Keller.
Here.
All right. And then I think, too, we're getting used to our mics again. So if you're not using your mic, make sure it's turned off because it makes, like, horrible noises, potentially. So we'll all have to remind each other because I'm sure we're all going to forget at some point. All right. Then we have our approval for our agenda from last month, which was March 21st, 2022. If there's any changes, otherwise we can move to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve last month's agenda.
I'll second. Some things never change. I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then any public comments on items that are not on our agenda this evening? I don't think we have anyone virtual today, so I don't see any hands in the audience. And we'll move on to our next item, which is probable cause hearing for 929 Parkview Street, and we'll have a presentation from staff.
Thank you, Chair Haley. So this evening, as you mentioned, we do have a probable cause determination for 929 Parkview Street. So this would be a request to find probable cause for a landmark designation to allow funding of a historic structure assessment. So here before you, this just shows you some context of the location. So on the left-hand side of your screen would be a general map of the Old Town overlay with the yellow star indicating the general location of the property. And then on the right-hand side of your screen there, that dashed yellow outline shows a more specific location of the property. For historic conditions there on the left-hand side of the screen, that would be the drawn site plan from the 1952 Boulder County Assessor's Card. And then the image on the right is the image from the same Assessor's Card. So you can get a sense of what it looked like when it was first built there in 1952. For current conditions, these are just two of the photos, but you can see these two elevations from essentially the front facade of the property, but the southeast elevation on the left, and then on the right, the partial elevation of the south or front, so obscured by the tree. But generally speaking, to go back, the footprint of the home remains quite similar to the footprint that you see on that left drawn site plan. As we look at the probable cause, we also look at landmark criteria. So here before you are just some of the things we look at for landmark criteria. So that would be at least 50 years old. It should meet one or more of the criteria for architectural, social, or geographic/environmental significance. And then it should also meet one or more of the physical integrity. To get into that further, we'll look at the landmarks. So this property is over at least 50 years old because it was built in 1952. So it would be 70 years old this year. So it does match the year threshold for landmarks. For the other criteria, we'll look at first at architectural significance. So 929 Parkview is a good example of that minimal ranch style that was post World War II. Some aesthetic changes have occurred over time. So just to go back quickly to the image here. So you can see some of that kind of half timbering would be an addition, but again, generally speaking, the footprint has remained the same. That brick bottom would remain the same from original as well. So some window changes, some aesthetic kind of siding changes, but generally speaking, still very similar to architecturally to its original build. So staff does find that the style and integrity of the structure do meet probable cause for the architectural significance criteria. Oops, sorry about that. For the social, staff does find that it exemplifies the cultural and social heritage. So for two main reasons, it does have strong associations with both the current owners of the property and then tying to the lineage of the property itself with the Madonna family. So the original owners have ties to Louisville's coal mining heritage, so deep roots there. And then additionally, a former owner of the property, Joe Madonna, has ties to many of Louisville's commercial heritage, including Empire. They're on Main Street and Steinbaugh's Main Street as well. And interestingly, Joe named Barbara Street after Irene Barbara Madonna, his wife, so an interesting tie there as well. For physical integrity, staff does find that it meets the probable cause for physical integrity, so you can see it has to meet one or more. So certainly the property is older than 50 years old, and it's found in its original location. And then staff does feel that or find that it meets 4 of the 7 aspects of integrity, so location, setting, design, and association. For the preservation master plan, you can see here, as we look at often with probable cause, it meets goal 5 and 3 of the preservation master plan, encouraging voluntary preservation and then leadership and preservation incentives. So therefore, for staff's recommendation, staff does recommend that the HPC find there is probable cause for the subject property at 929 Parkview. This would make properties eligible for the cost of a historic structure assessment up to $4,000. And so with that, I'm here for any questions.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for staff? All right. Sorry, I was like, could we have public comment now? So we'll have the applicant, if you would like to speak, and just state your name and address for us for the record.
Gordon Madonna, 733 Garfield Avenue, Louisville. And Joe Madonna was my father. My family originally homesteaded Louisville in 1919. And the family, well, they purchased the property in 1919. It's been in the family ever since. And what our desire is to return the house as close to the original design as possible, with some minor modifications, and to put in a garage with an upper dwelling unit on the top. Let me introduce, this is my wife, Gail. This is my daughter, Christine, and her husband, Derek, and my son, Mark. So Christine and Derek are living in the main house, and Mark's going to be living in the upper, what do you call it, UAD or whatever it is, in the garage, so that we can keep the property within the family as opposed to selling it off. So there's been a few minor modifications and so forth. I brought some pictures if you'd like to see those, or answer any questions you might have.
Go ahead.
I would be interested in seeing the pictures. Thank you.
Okay to approach? Okay. Parkview, which is Parkview, which is the Parkins family house at that time. There's my father working on the lots. This is Rita Ferreira and Helen, and I forget Helen's last name, but this shows you the, looking here would be my grandmother's house, and this is where Front Street would be, and makes that curve. And my father, I'll go back to the microphone now. My father, after he came back from World War II, was very busy in the city of Louisville. Not only he was the first planning commissioner and formed the planning commission, he was responsible for getting all the streets, the widths and so forth, I guess plotted out and eventually paved. I believe it was in the 60s that they actually got them paved, because prior to that it was just fly ash. He helped form the Chamber of Commerce. He was responsible for kind of putting his shoe behind a lot of people to get the city of Louisville to buy all the water rights that they have nowadays. And it just getting the school built, Louisville Elementary, and it just goes on and on and on. So he was very active in the community. He was also known as AJM Construction, or S&M Construction, which stood for Steinbach Madonna. He built Bella Vista, and the streets down there, Eileen and Rose, are named after the Steinbach wives, and Barbara's named after my mother, and Lois is named after my Aunt Lois. So, and that was all back in the 60s. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you. This was great documentation and lots of good family history. So thanks for taking the time to share all that. I think my only question was just about the footprint in general, just as far as like what additions have been. Looks like from the front there hasn't been additions, but just kind of curious, like what, if there's any additions.
The only part that was added on is there's a patio on the west side, and my father and I built that, and my wife, Gail. And that was back in the late 70s, early 80s. So other than that, it hasn't been changed, other than the windows and then the siding that was put on there. What we'd like to do is take all that siding off and put the original clapboard back on, instead of using cedar like what was on there before, but use the hardy board should have the same effect.
All right. Any other questions? Go
I
ahead.
appreciate having all the, not only family history, but the town history, really. And I should know this, but was Joe Madonna the proprietor of Joe's Market up the street?
No, that was Joe D'Amato, which is,
Okay.
so there was two Madonnas, my grandfather Gennaro Madonna and his brother John Madonna. John Madonna lived up on Walnut, close to the school, and his daughter Rose was married to John D'Amato that had the grocery store.
So it was in the family anyway, huh?
Yeah, and then Pete Madonna, I don't know if you recognize that name. He was the manager of Kolaches for 30-some years. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to ask, because we need to, any public comments? All right. We'll bring it back for discussion with the commission.
So it was, again, nice to hear all of the family history and connections, as well as the information that was provided in the packet for us to review prior to this meeting. I think it's absolutely clear that there's social significance and cultural connections, so that criteria is more than met for this property.
I appreciate the desire to have the house be kind of in its original form, its siding and all. And I know we can't request such things, but I think that's a worthwhile move in the interest of preservation of what the town was really originally like. So like that idea.
I would agree too with that for this style, this minimal ranch style. It's nice to see these preserved. They're not always preserved so intact. And if that's the intent of the owners, then I think that really will add to the history of our town.
Yeah, and I think too, this style, this kind of period in history also is significant in Louisville, and it's important that we do kind of start setting that precedent that these are landmarkable. And so I think this is a great example of a home that's not a traditional, 100-year-old home, but a 70-year-old home that is very significant in what was happening in Louisville at that time as far as significant families. So I think this is a great addition to would be a great addition. So I think it definitely meets our criteria. So 50 years or older, has great social significance, and also the architectural integrity, the footprint is there, the windows are there, some of the siding has been changed, but not enough to take that away. So, do you have anything you wanted to say about it?
No, I totally agree with you guys. Plus, the Madonna family is well-known in Louisville, and I'd like nothing better than to see it landmarked eventually. So I would agree with that.
All right, so if anyone would like to make a motion for probable cause?
I'll make a motion to move forward with a probable cause determination for 929 Parkview.
Second that motion?
And we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Berg,
Yes.
Chair Haley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunlap,
Yes.
Commissioner Keller.
Yes.
All right, and then staff will just be in touch with you as far as the next steps with getting the HSA, so you can start doing some exploration of your house and get some answers and start making those decisions. So thank you so much for joining us this evening and for pursuing our program. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have items from staff.
That's right. Thank you, Chair Haley. Dave, do you mind going back to the PowerPoint presentation, please? Thank you. Let me just find my mouse. We just have a few other things to talk about tonight. So the first thing would, of course, be subcommittee updates. So no alteration certificate reviews were done between last month's meeting and now. But we did have one demolition review. So apologize. I'm realizing now that it's up on the screen, I didn't change the photo. So that is not 1009 Grant. But 1009 Grant is the property in which it had a demolition review. So the subcommittee reviewed a request to demolish a non-historic carport that was located at 1009 Grant. And so it extended off of the historic garage, but again, it itself was built, I believe, in 2014 or in the 2000s. So it was considered non-historic, but still facing the property. So we put it to demolition subcommittee, and the proposed demolition and removal of the existing carport, the subcommittee found to actually help the historic integrity, and so it was approved at the subcommittee level. For the upcoming schedule, we have, in May, we have two events. We have certainly our Historic Preservation Commission meeting, which would be the 16th, here again in person at 6:30. So our normal day of the month, and then our normal time here in person. And then we also have Lenses on Louisville, which is the museum event that they did last year. And so it'll be May 7th, which is a Saturday. The event runs from 9 to 11. And what's really quite apropos for tonight's item that we had on the agenda, it's actually the Bella Vista neighborhood. So they'll be doing, if you remember from last year, they did it was like a bingo card, and they would go and take photos. And so the bingo card had certain things that you would go and find if you were participating. And so this time, instead of doing downtown, they chose Bella Vista to look at, this mid-century kind of style and character and that sort of thing. So they they'll have their kind of table, and they've asked if we wanted to be there again, and I said certainly. So we don't have to decide tonight, but I did want to give you the exact date and time. Again, it's a Saturday, so if you have anything but if you'd like to join me and sit through and pass out, last year we had some flyers, we had information about the program in general, and then, of course, we were there to just talk with folks. So if you're interested in joining me, again, I'll be there from 9 to 11. Last year, we did kind of hour blocks, just if folks wanted to be with me for 1 hour, and then somebody from 9 to 10 and 10 to 11, that would work. So if you guys wanted to talk about it now, we could, or we could just do it via email, but I'd love for you all to join me if you'd like, but of course, I'll be there the whole time, so not a problem. The only other item that would be we have to talk about is related to May. It would be our plaque awards ceremony. So that was part of the packet tonight. But when I did the poll for everybody, it looked like it was March 27th was the best day for folks. I think we got all yeses, and one person just said it was a tentative. So if that works for everyone, we can go ahead and solidify that as our day for the plaque award ceremony. And then, as we talked about last month, we'd still do the house to house, cutting the ribbon and introducing the plaque there. So I just wanted to double check. We did the doodle poll, of course, but I just want to make sure that still worked for everybody and that sounded good. So that last Thursday, I'll check my numbers here, but that would be in May. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions or anything I can provide.
I would comment that I'll be away out of town for both of those first two events, the May 7th and the May 16th.
Okay, great.
I'd be happy to come for at least part of the, if not all of the lenses on Louisville. I did that last year and really enjoyed it, so happy
Great.
to do that.
You have a preference of time? Earlier?
I can be there at 9. and
Okay,
then
cool.
just go from
All
there.
right, I love it.
Yeah.
I think we'll be, unless I'm misunderstanding, but I believe even though they're going to Bella Vista, they'll still be kind of the gathering place
Be at the
at
Circle
the
Museum?
museum.
Okay.
So I believe, as Historic Preservation Commission folks, I think we'll still be right here, and then people who are participating would then go to Bella Vista. So that's my understanding. I'll make sure, of course, but I believe we'll be here.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Yeah, I'm a strong possibility, but I should check my family calendar, so, but I think I can probably be there for that too. Are we all able to make the plaque ceremony? Yeah,
Yep, I can make that. Mhm.
yeah, it'll be fun.
And then the 16th, with Gary not here, if the rest of us can make it, as far as we know, then we do have a quorum, correct? So we're okay?
Yep, as long as it's 3 or more, that's a quorum for us.
Right.
So yeah, if something comes up, the sooner the better, just let me know, and then we can figure that out. But as of now, if the 3 of you are okay, we should be fine for that meeting.
Okay. All right. All right, any updates from commission members? Anything we need to know about? It's good to see everyone in person. Everything went pretty well, so that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. Well, we have, our last item was just to adjourn, so would someone like to make a motion? Just don't get used to this, because this is, yeah, this is not the norm, and no, so, it's a good practice, though, it's a good.
one to cut our teeth on.
Right, absolutely, yeah. So,
I guess I'd move we adjourn.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good night.